As the world shut down following the outbreak of the COVID pandemic, August, a trans man, prepared for his life-changing top surgery, while at the same time his girlfriend, Sid, was dealing with an undiagnosed medical condition that caused pain, illness, and depression. As the pandemic progressed, August's surgery received several delays, Sid's illness worsened, and they faced the discrimination from the medical community. The couple struggled to cope with the stress, but still forged ahead together. Neither could have known the life-changing gift they were about to be given. So now we are a couple in together in COVID lockdown. August is just getting over this COVID, followed by influenza, followed by probably a bit of emotional and mental stress coming from the fact that you're locked together, and there was just this blatant transphobia put on him by the person tasked with helping him and keeping him healthy. So what's next for you two?
Yeah, so we were gearing up to August 11th, which is when I got my top surgery, and I was just not leaving the house. I mean, getting COVID was
I wasn't either. It's the last thing I wanted to do was endanger his surgery.
Yeah, and I couldn't, like, if I got a positive COVID test, like, my surgery would have been canceled and my refunds, like, I would have been another 6 months to a year before I'd gotten it done. So there was a lot.
You'd been saving up for like 4 years.
4 years, yeah. Like, there had been a lot of weight, a lot of pressure. And I think with everything going on, the world was super heavy then. And it was really not necessarily, it wasn't easy to just be in that time. And I definitely felt like there was a ton of pressure. I felt like I probably put a lot of pressure on you to make sure that this didn't go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't put any, too much pressure. I think there was also this, I just didn't want to do anything that would stop that, because I knew how badly he wanted it.
Needed
it, to just kind of move forward in your life and career and everything.
Yeah, and you've been definitely feeling super low.
I've been feeling really low, and I've been I had booked doctor's appointments, but they kept getting pushed back with COVID. And so, I was like, oh, I'm feeling like all these different types of ways. I don't really know why. I would talk to my parents, and I was kind of like, and my mom specifically, and kind of be like, hey, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. And she was like, well, you're not working. You're not, you're just depressed because of COVID and you're bummy. So I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. And and then you have to bring into the fact that surgery takes a ton out of you, and I go back to just kind of like the treatment that trans people get. Like, I was incredibly under-medicated for my surgery.
He was. It was crazy. I mean, his mom ended up coming to top surgery, and that was crazy. But she also kind of realized the transphobia in the medical community, and she was like, oh, no, they didn't, underprescribe you because you're trans, or
it's the opioid epidemic. It's not this.
And then she realized that it wasn't. So it was kind of this eye-opening thing for her.
But surgery just kind of takes a lot out of you. I definitely feel like I have I'm sensy. It took a lot out of me. It was like a full month of being super, super uncomfortable.
I was feeling really down too, and really stressed when you were getting your surgery, because my biological mom had passed away during surgery. So I had this fear and anxiety, which kind of masked a lot of other things too, where I was just kind of sick all the time when you were in surgery.
But that doesn't go away. That feeling of pain and sickness and in general, I don't feel right for you, Sid, didn't go away. Despite the fact August has a surgery, he starts to recover and go back to some sense of normalcy, if not better, because, oh, hey, he's himself, finally.
Yeah, yeah. And so I was taking care of him, but I was still in this kind of he noticed it too. He was like, there's something off about Sid, but I don't know what it is.
Kind of like what you said. As I started to heal, I realized that Sid wasn't healing. Yeah, and there was something off, and we kind of talked about it, and it wasn't a non-topic in our household. I was like, how are you doing today? How are you feeling?
Yeah,
what's going
on?
Constantly
checking in. And I was like, oh, I don't know.
Pretty extreme weight gain for you too, Sid, correct? I mean, you're generally a pretty lean individual.
Yeah, I was pretty lean. I kind of...
You only gained 15 pounds.
Yeah, 10 to 15 pounds. So it wasn't a lot to other people. No one really noticed.
But on your small frame, yeah.
Yeah, on me, it was my butt was huge. I was like, what's going on? I was like, my metabolism, I'm finally becoming an adult. I'm losing my young jeans or whatever. I was like,
So you add that to like the not getting the outside, like, oh my God, you look great today because you're stuck inside with quarantine. There's
I wasn't
the confidence there.
I was wearing sweatpants every day. I wasn't, I was sitting on my couch 24/7. And so it's kind of like, oh, I've been on my ass too long. Like now I'm just getting fat. And so that's what I pinned it down.
She was not getting fat.
I was not getting fat. But, I'd never gained weight before. So it was a lot.
Well, this all compounds, right, into one specific night that I would venture to say is probably going to be, number one, the most memorable night of your life. I don't care how glorious your wedding is, or if you win a Tony or an Oscar or an Emmy, okay? This is going to be the craziest night of your life. Tell us that story.
We're never going to live the story down. I don't think Bo is either.
No, Bo will never live it down.
Yeah.
So kind of is like a 3-dayer. Because we had gotten a job where I was like sanding furniture
and I was painting carousel horses in Temecula.
Yeah, and I am a big true crime fanatic. I love true crime podcasts, and so I was listening to this podcast about cryptic pregnancies, where this one girl had like 6 cryptic pregnancies, where she was able to hide the pregnancy from her mom.
We were talking shit.
We were just making fun of this mom, being like, how could she not know her daughter was pregnant?
You wouldn't know you were pregnant.
Like, just making fun. And Sid was having a lot of back pain, a lot of hip pain.
I was in the car, and I was like, I've just been sitting in the car too long. My back is killing me. Like, I was just like, what is this? Like, this pain is awful.
Yeah, so we go into that night. She starts bleeding pretty heavily because of the seizures. I didn't go to work the next day. I kind of stayed home to make sure she was okay, and there was no.
I'm pretty sure we called out of work because we were like, I'm just not feeling very well.
Yeah. And because I'm, one of 5 sisters and have experienced really gnarly periods, I was like, the bathtub is a huge help.
Yeah. And so the night before Saturday is like the day of it all. But that Friday night, I'm like tossing and turning every hour of the night. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm taking an ibuprofen, I'm just like, why? And it'd be like an hour long, and then I'd finally fall back asleep, and then I'd wake up again, and I'd be in this like intense pain. And then I finally, contractions. And finally I took a bath like he had recommended. And so it was like 6 a.m. I'm taking a bath, and then I'm like, I look down and I see a head, and I was just like, and this animalistic thing took over where it was like, oh my God. Like, and at first I was kind of like, oh, my organs are coming out of like, I'm dying. This is it. Goodbye, world. And I didn't make a single sound. Like, that's the thing.
Silent.
Yeah, I was like, I have a high pain tolerance, apparently higher than I knew. And I pushed out a baby, like by myself in our bathtub at 6:38, 7 a.m. Yeah. And I didn't make a sound until you had knocked on the door.
Yeah, so like my cat woke me up. He was like, dude, you got to get up. Something's going down.
He can't close doors in this house anymore because he gets so paranoid. He's like, you having a baby in there?
Yeah. So I woke up my cat at 7:30 in the morning, and like I'm not waking up at 7:30 on a Saturday ever. And so I get up, and I'm like, all right, well, I gotta pee. I'll go knock on the door. Knocks on the door, and Sid was like, don't come in.
Yeah, it was like a very stern. And in this moment when I said don't come in, I was like, when I saw the head, was like this, like, don't come in.
Yeah, so it was very much like, don't come in, stern, super calm.
In my head,
not
it was like,
don't come in, I think I'm dying in the bathtub, you're not allowed in here. Just like, don't come in, period.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, cool. Just to let you know, I really got to pee.
Yeah.
And I left the room. I was just like, went back to bed, and I got back in bed, was playing on my phone, looking through Instagram. And all of a sudden, I just hear a single cry. And I was like, what? What was
and the
that?
animals, like, perked up, and they're just like, what is going on? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so the animals are all looking around. I get out of bed, and I'm walking towards our front door.
To the hallway.
To see, where the newborn baby's at.
They're like, is there a baby on our doorstep? Like did someone leave a baby out here?
Yeah,
and at that point, I had, like, I think everything hit me at that point where I was like, where did this baby come from? How did this happen? Like, all of these emotions hit me, and I just was like bawling my eyes out. It was kind of like the moment she looked at me and opened her eyes and like said, wah, it was like, oh my God, like everything just rushed back. And so I came out of the bathroom bawling. I was holding her in a towel, still tethered to me, blood everywhere, like everywhere. He had to clean the bathroom afterwards, and it was not pretty. And I just tried to hand him the baby, and I was like, I had a baby.
Yeah, and like I'm 5'11", she's 5'3", so she's trying to hand me a baby that's still tethered to her. That does not work.
No, he was
like you have to hold this baby. Like I can't take the baby. She's attached.
And I mean,
you need to sit down.
He handled it so well compared to most people who would, I think, handle that situation. I mean,
my years of Grey's Anatomy really came into play here because I was like, all right, the baby's crying. Are you okay? The baby's crying. That's a good sign. You need to sit down. And let's call 911.
He called our neighbor, and our neighbor is like, he's like, you're joking. This is a prank. You're pulling a prank on me. Waits like 10 minutes, then comes over and is like, I don't see a baby. What do you mean there's a baby?
In the bathtub.
And he goes in the bathroom and he's like, what's going on? What kind of prank is this? And turns around, and I was just like, still butt naked with a baby. And I was like, and he was like, oh, there's the baby.
He just turned around and got the paramedics.
Yeah.
I interrupt this program to remind you to like this video and subscribe with push notifications on.
Let me ask you this, August. When you walked into that bathroom, what was the first thing that went through your mind? Because I can't imagine being so incredibly close to somebody and having something that there's no possible way that this was something that happened without your trust being so utterly broken, or at least on the forefront.
Looking at that situation in that moment, and like not looking at Bo specifically, because I feel like she's not attached to that moment in a lot of ways. But Sid comes out of the bathroom and I hear another cry and I turn around and I think my heart broke in that moment in a lot of ways. And the first thing that came out of my mouth was, so you cheated.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have stopped it from coming out of my mouth, and I've gotten a lot of shit being like, that's the first thing you said. You didn't ask if she was okay. I was like,
why would that be? Why would you get in trouble for that? That would be the first thing that would come out of my mouth.
How could that not be the first thing to come out of your mouth?
I always tell him, like, you get to feel the emotions that you're feeling, like especially in those moments. Like I was like, there are so many different things to be feeling.
Yeah, but that question really disappeared within seconds. I mean, it was just not the time for it. This was a serious situation. Sid was bleeding heavily. Yeah. Bo was the smallest baby you've ever seen. I mean, 3 pounds.
The doctors were like, it's crazy that you both survived. They were like, the fact that Bo survived that, but the fact that I survived bleeding for two
full days. You know, like I knew that wasn't the moment for that, and so it was just like I had a hard time looking at Sid in the eyes, making actually being able to talk to her, but I didn't leave, and I think that was the only thing that I could have done was, and then my neighbor really, he kept my head on straight for the whole day. He stayed with me all day, and I went back and forth and checked on Sid, and when we finally had a minute to talk, things got not as clear as it took a while, because I think for a really long time I was living in that heartbreak. Yeah. You operate and you think from those emotions that you're feeling. It's hard to separate yourself from it. So
yeah, I think after we kind of talked about it, he was like, that doesn't sound right. The more we talked about it, the more everything kind of came forward, and that's when he was just like, this isn't your fault.
So when you guys got to the hospital, you said that you were treated not the best from the hospital staff, but for a reason that is different than most people would think.
Yeah. So getting through the pandemic, I think a lot of people did what they would normally do, and Sid and I neither are big drinkers, but we smoke weed, or used to. Yeah. And
so we were smoking throughout the pandemic, and
which means that Sid was smoking throughout her pregnancy, and when we got to the hospital, we were treated like a cis couple who didn't care about their baby and were just gonna do drugs anyways. Yeah. Which is just not even remotely close to who we are as people or how we feel about.
If I had known I was pregnant, I would have done everything, prenatal care. I always said that I would have taken the best care of my baby, regardless of the situation, regardless
of
where she came from.
Doesn't matter.
I would always have.
And we know this is true because that's exactly what you're doing today.
Exactly.
And so there's like, you know, I kind of, we got a lot of like mixed comments just on, and like everyone has their own opinion on the YouTube video that you'd seen, but it was just like, when you look at people who have turned a situation into what you have, how could you actually assume the worst? Because we've only taken the best.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. But
it's so we blew their minds, I feel like, pretty quickly, because we, you know, they treated us like in this certain way, but then the moment that we were showing up and doing everything that we could, they were like, oh, these people really, you know, care about their child and care about, you know.
And these are also like medical professionals who have only dealt with situations like the one that they assumed. You know, they have dealt with the drug addicts who've been pregnant and hadn't taken, you know, proper
especially
care.
in LA, Los Angeles, I'm sure that's what they're flooded with. The one thing I'll say to support both of you guys is that, you know, I'm sorry that people have given you their 2 cents, because it's not even worth that, you know. But I feel bad. I don't know how anybody could look at the situation you guys have been handed and could ever say that they could deal with it or handle it any better than you guys have. I wish when I get to the point where you guys are, and I maybe one day have children, that I'm able to handle with such grace and such care and such love as you have, because these people who are commenting, I'm very doubtful that they would have been able to handle it any better. In fact, I doubt they would have been able to handle it as respectfully and adult and appropriately as you guys have. I just think you are such beautiful human beings inside and out, and I'm just so excited to be like chatting with you all and sharing your story, because it can help so many different people. I have one question on this same point, August. Was there any time after the fact, okay, after the few days passed, was there any question in your mind of leaving Sid and the baby?
Oh, God, that's such a hard question.
It's an honest one. And again, I want people listening. You can't fault August for what he's about to say, because the truth is this, is that at one point you had to strengthen your trust with Sid again, because this thing happened and there's no explaining it, you know? That's one. And then on the second part is you love Sid, and you obviously love this new child that you've been given that you never thought would ever be able to happen, you know? Yeah. And then the third element is that we're still in this very tough situation. August, you're not making those 6 figures yet, you know what I'm saying? You're a young man who, if he says yes, is making a huge life commitment that might end with your dreams having to be put aside for something that in reality maybe isn't necessarily your responsibility. So I asked this question. I want people at home, what August is about to answer, there's much more complexity to it than what you would just think.
Yeah, and I got that question a lot in the first few days, but the one person who didn't ask it was Sid.
Yeah.
She, you know, and I think that grace to be like, whatever you decide, however you want to move forward, we're friends. We'll always be friends. You can be in Beau's life however you want. There's no judgment, was helpful. I think that for me, I probably fought the fact that I knew I was going to stay from like pretty much the beginning. Once I had gotten a better understanding of what had happened, I pretty much knew what I was going to do. That doesn't mean that I didn't live with that duality of reality, because at the end of the day, I experienced 2 different things. I experienced 1, I felt like I'd been cheated on, and 2, my partner had been assaulted and I wasn't there for her in the ways that I wanted to be. And those both things, there's pain in both of those realities, and it didn't really matter. And so I think I was living in a lot of shock in those moments, but the moment that I held Beau and had her little hand wrap around mine, and I didn't really feel this sense of doom. I kind of felt this sense of possibility and this new chapter. And like, I've been a big sibling my whole life. And through my parents' divorce, I kind of lost that. And although being a parent is way different, loving something unconditionally like a child and like I had as a sibling, it felt so right. Although I was very clear with Sid, I was like, my dreams are a priority to me, and they will remain a priority, and they're going to remain a priority in our relationship and moving forward. And I believe in my own successes. I mean, even today, I still recognize the fact that if I'm not making money in this career field in the next few years. Like, I'm gonna have to do something else because Bo needs school and everything
we have bills
else.
to pay. We have so much that's going on. But adding to that, I think we always just had this very open communication that was like, no matter what happens between our relationship, we'll just always be there for each other because we've built a friendship within the relationship as well.
And I think that's something that is kind of rare because our relationship was different. The friendship kind of came through it. It came second. It didn't start that way. And it's been only getting stronger as we've gotten to know each other. But, oh, yeah, it's still like going back to that. I had no fucking idea what I was going to do because I was so... I didn't see it possible, even though I was living it. I was like, dude, like, I was talking to my best friend, and I was like, dude, like who is writing this movie script right now? Like, what is going on?
Sometimes we're like, where are the cameras? Because, like, I can't deal with anything else. Like, stop throwing things at me. This is not, a reality show. It's our reality, but, like, please stop. I want a calm moment.
What was the moment, August, that you knew you were going to stay and commit to both Sid and to Bo? Was there not a moment? Did it just grow on you, or was there a moment?
No, there was a couple moments. I think like holding Bo was definitely helpful. There was like those attachment things, but I think one of those moments was when I walked into the room and Sid asked me if Bo's last name could be my last name.
Yeah.
And she said it doesn't matter if you stay, but I always I've never been able. I can't think about Bo and not think about her having your last name. Like she just. Like I've just always thought about my kid with your last name and kind of like, and in that moment I realized that it was kind of so much bigger than those moments and those feelings that I was having. And I knew that those feelings were going to pass and that my true self, my clarity of myself was going to like be happy that I stayed and stuck through it. And if I can't imagine not being here.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity, like my buddy who lives in San Francisco, he's like, yo, drive up here tonight. Like you got a place to stay, whatever you need. And I was like, I can't leave. He's like, what do you mean you can't leave? I was like, I can't leave. You can leave. No, I can't leave. I already knew that I couldn't leave. And so I think
I knew that too. I wasn't pressuring you at all. And I would have respected whatever decision. I think in the deepest part of me, I just knew that he was going to stay, even though I didn't pressure you. But like
you say you already knew?
No, I'm just saying like I feel like I've really gotten to know the person that he is, and I just know that like I just knew.
I feel like I don't want to say I stayed because it's the right thing, but it was the right thing for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To that.
You summed it up perfectly.
Yeah.
Coming up on Timo After Hours. After carrying a child to full term without knowing she was pregnant, Sid gave birth to her daughter Bo, while at the same time her transgender boyfriend August struggled to come to terms with the fact that the young couple were now parents, despite the physiological impossibilities. But once the smoke cleared and the two recommitted themselves together, they faced a new mission to craft a life for their young, unconventional family. What's next, and how will the two face unbeatable odds? All this and more on the next Timo After Hours. Click the green to see part 2 of my interview series with August and Sid, blue to subscribe, and pink to see the full series playlist.